Hi everyone, I'm Gary Tucker and welcome to Advancing with Watercolor. In this series, I look at developing a motif, which I feel is an important undertaking for every artist. This demo is part of a larger project available now on my storefront at gumroad.com/Gary Tucker Artist. Click the link above. Your purchase supports my work on YouTube. Thanks for watching. I'm taping down a piece of paper here and dividing it basically in half. We're going to do a couple studies today. One in black and white, one in color. And first thing we want to do is draw the horizon. Basic shape of haystack, distant, something in the distance, another piece of land in the distance. And we have the shallows or the surf. Have some rising clouds. Let's create our focal point or center of interest is right through here. And this is the horizon, and our haystack rock is slightly below the horizon. That's an important part to note as you're laying out your drawing, is that it's slightly inset. In other words, the horizon about here, and the foundation of the haystack is touching the water just about here. So very much in the shallows, the receding tide. That's what makes this particular image sort of wonderful, I think, is anyway, there's our first iteration of haystack rock on Cannon Beach. Reflections. Shallows. In and out of the tide. Focal point through here. We have some rising clouds. Let's repeat that. Horizon. And these elements, of course, they're variable, and sometimes it's worth it to experiment on repositioning them, raising the horizon, seeing how that affects the composition, because it does have an effect. It does have an effect. I'm not going to do mirror image. But something like this big, beautiful rock, anyway. A little jetty, that makes it interesting. And these rocks themselves are beautiful shapes. Very dynamic. Most of them have sort of an oblique energy to them. Inset below the horizon. Not by much, but that little bit of difference makes huge difference in how we read this. We have another rock back here, another tiny rock back here. Right? Some shadows, some shallows. Black and white. I've squirted out some neutral tint. here a little bit. And now we need to consider the tonal arrangement, of course. Based on this setting, our darks are the strongest, the reflections as well. The sky has depth to it, a deepness, especially the clouds. And the foreground too is quite deep. So this is a late evening painting, which means the dynamic, the tonal dynamic, the mid-tone is quite deep. Maybe we start with the sky. I think I would like to paint the the clouds as darks. In this case, I'm going to start with just the palest washes, just mostly water, right down to the horizon. Nice straight line there, good. A little more color up above. Let's get that flowing down. Keep it wet. Because, why do we keep it wet? Because we're going to manipulate it by bringing in some clouds, darker clouds, not menacing necessarily, but darker clouds. The first one kind of begins on the horizon. Let's make that a little darker. Mix it up well, but pretty dark. Maybe I should take care of this bead first. Then a rising cloud on the horizon. Another one up through here. And yeah, I just want them to be clouds, kind of bands, typical clouds which you might see on rising off of the ocean. There we go. I don't mind this feathering. Reminds me there might be a little bit of rain. It's perfectly okay. Now, I'm going to paint the water surface. With some dry brush. Starting light, well, starting with the mid-tone. Nice big brush. And take out some of the paint. Try to make a dry mark. Nice dry horizontal strokes. Something like this. While it's wet, I can see my shapes of haystack. So I'm going to start to paint them a little darker. While this paint is wet, introduce some soft color darker. Well, we'll get it going first. There we go. We want to leave these little gaps. That we created with the dry brush. If we can. I'm making an effort to. And right near the base, I'm going to add a little extra dark. This is the base right through here. A little bit of an extra dark. So there's my reflection. And it's important to note the little sparkling lines through here. First generated by the dry brush, but then accentuated as I came into it and placed the shape of the reflection here. I don't need to go everywhere. I'm just touching around here to add some stronger darks towards the back. This is the way we create the feeling of those shallows and a high reflective quality. There. So as it comes forward, it's a little lighter. Then let's paint the sand. So we're just coming downhill basically on this mid-tone. Big brush, as you can see, pretty big brush. I'm going to leave a little white. Nice smooth wash. And I'm going to, while it's wet, I'm going to get a little darker through here. Sort of in line with the haystack mountain. Doesn't have to be perfectly in line, but now this is giving me a good working thought for when I do my final painting in terms of sequence, in terms of what I want to do for edges, and in terms of what I want to do for values. So this is dried up here. Let's come up here and add haystack mountain in a dark fashion, not very thick. Let's use a little bigger brush. The only thing is when you go to a bigger brush, you have to anticipate that you're carrying more water. Right over everything. Good. I don't know if we need to get much darker than this. But we can play with the edges a little bit. We can have some fun. Either through shaping or by, disturbing an edge. I'm curious to disturb that edge and that edge. Yeah. Okay, good. Now I'm going to go quite dark through here, grabbing this little bit of edge here. little accent through here, right? And this, my rock actually comes down through here. Like so. These guys, they're bleeding through, it's okay. Now we can move over to this side and paint this way back here, maybe a little lighter. Just a simple shape, nothing special. We want it to really recede. And some dry brush to capture the shape. Of the reflection like that. I do want to leave a very skinny line if I can, way back there. And maybe I'll take this opportunity to make this a little darker. Yeah, it's a good idea. Just a little darker. With some thicker paint. This should be a little more sharp. That. It's dried a little pale, didn't it? Okay, something like that. Are we finished? I think we need maybe one more tiny rock over here. Basically we're finished, but and the reflection also broken by the shallows, the reflections on the shallows a little bit. Yeah. Possibly we can go one more darkness in the beach area. The finger's a great tool when you need sort of this reflective quality. Something about it, it's just perfect. And I'm wondering if we can actually create a line with the thin brush here while it's still wet. Say I want to retrieve a line. That I painted out or for some reason. Yeah, so we can do that. We just take clean water, skinny brush. You don't want to do this with a mop brush or any big brush. We draw a line here with the water and come back and remove it. And the painting can be dry to do this. This is dry right through here. Let's try one more. So you make the line, and then you come back after taking all the water out of the brush. Just pick up that water. Maybe come back and just like so. Whoops. Yeah, do it later. Anyway, one more on the shoreline here. We want to make it feel like it's wet. So we do that, and then we take a small brush and with just water and get some softer edges there. And we let this dry. While that's drying, let's think about the color expression. Today's painting is featuring sort of a sunset sky with deeper blues in the shore and in the water, so on. But we can approach it much the same way. Let's clean this off. Paper towel might be easier. And I'm going to use some of my Cad Orange Red made by Holbein in the sky. As well as some yellow ochre. That's how I'm going to start, is a pale yellow ochre. Into the sky. Yellow ochre. There we go. Water. Have some of that orange there. That's okay. Basically, I want a warm sky. And I'm going to take a smaller brush. I'm going to stay with the bigger brush, or the mop brush. Some of that same Cad Orange Red. Carry it up into the sky. Maybe even a little more. Why not? Have to watch this guy. Just a little more. through my center of interest, right? A little purer version. Already it's beautiful. It's the nature of watercolor. Letting that white paper come through. And do I want to put any clouds in this? The photograph shows yes. Maybe we'll take a little blue. Ultramarine blue, that is. And gray it down a little bit with some red. Keep it wet. Take that big brush. We're just going to make a few clouds. Ultramarine blue. Some leftovers. And one cloud. Two clouds. Get just a little darker towards the center of this cloud. And we'll put one cloud on the horizon. Let's have this turn the other way. So this works back up. Maybe we don't need a cloud on the horizon. It's looking pretty good as it is. Let gravity pull that back up. This is the fun part about doing these little exercises, is the variety of ways that you can end up with an image. I think I'm going to leave it as it is and think about now the water. The water is going to have that same orangey quality. I'm picking up plenty of orange, taking a lot of it out of the brush, getting some marks going here. Some dry marks. That's pretty good. And I'm going to add a little orange to this through my center of interest, through here. Like so. And the foundation, the ground, the sand. Start with a bit of orange too, because everything is kind of, this is the mother color, is really started by this orange hue. Followed by this ultramarine blue that's grayed down. Can be darker. I'm going to make it darker. I should switch to the smaller brush. Bluer. And gravity will tone it down here. We need that to dry a little. Maybe we work back in this one. Right, our land has paled a little bit. I think it can be a little darker. Adjustment. I'm painting it pretty flat because it's just a silhouette. I don't want to go too dark. Straight down. Define that water again. Let's dissolve that edge a little bit. That. Yeah, that relationship's a little better. Okay. And, well, we need, something in our center of interest, and maybe a couple of figures. Standing in the shallows. Of course, they're going to be very, very tiny. Something like that. Creates a little center of interest. And a lot of lively brushwork, a lot of interesting edge work, which lets us know that the artist really enjoyed painting this. Distant stone. And we might adjust the whites at the end. Okay, this is pretty well dry. Let's take care of this. We want to go deeper. I'm going to get some more ultramarine blue. Okay, let's paint this rock. And I'm going to use, again, started off with some of the warm hue, a little bit of that orange. Again, this is kind of just to wet the surface. Allow me to create the sort of shape that I want. Then while it's wet, I'm going to take in a little bit of this blue and neutral tint. Quite dark. A bit more of the ultramarine blue. And I should probably wet this first. So I'm going to wet this first. And then we'll put in some of that same color. evoking the mysterious. And I think, yes, we even followed that with a little one more wash here. A little darker. A little more blue. This. So here you feel the white is a little too bright. We just take a little color over the top and we keep that edge. The edge remains, but we just dull it down. This should be done after the paper is dry. Just to make it a more subtle expression. Everything is kind of focused on here. And we add a few people here. That will gain strength. Thank you for watching until the end. If you like the content on this channel, please consider supporting my efforts through buying the occasional video on watercolor painting or drawing on my storefront on gumroad.com/Gary Tucker Artist. These videos include supporting images, PDF files, and other bonus content. Thanks again, and I look forward to seeing you next week on Advancing with Watercolor.